Welcome back, whoever's out there listening. There is so much going on out there that just defies the imagination or the um, logical ability of reasonable people to process, for lack of uh, a better term. So, what did I come across today? Well, a ton of stuff, but this one especially struck me. On Twitter, let me bring it up here real quick for you. Here we have Mr. Evan Glass. And yes, I use the word Mr. because it is the proper term. So, yesterday, the council unanimously approved my legislation requiring the Department of Transportation to remove snow from sidewalks in our equity emphasis areas, where fewer residents own cars and are more dependent on walking and taking the bus. So, this is a continual refrain in the political scheme: equitable, equity. What exactly is equitable? It has a one sided definition if you really dig into it. Um, and so here we have Mr. Evan Glass. Let's go look at him. He's a Montgomery County Council Vice President. He's a husband with a rainbow flag after, which means he's a sodomite, a rescue beagle dad, and a transit rider. And oh, look, a former CNN journalist, which means he's not exactly unbiased. So that's Mr. Evan Glass, and he is proclaiming the victory of Shovel Our Sidewalks Act. God forbid you shovel your own sidewalks. Now, I live in a city. I live in a city where I will shovel my sidewalks and the snowplow will come through and throw snow back over what I had already shoveled. Do you know what I do? I take shovel in hand and I go back out and I reshovel and I clear out my personal spot where my driveway comes out into the public thoroughfare, or I shovel out my vehicle that is parked on the street that has been plowed in by the plows that come through, taking care of the greater good. But that's not equitable. That's not equitable at all. In fact, if I lived in an equitable community, define that as you will, in point of fact, the county or the state should come back through and shovel me out. What can I even say to that? Ladies and gentlemen, our entire societal level has been reversed by people like this guy. And now, let's read through this act. Today, the Montgomery County Council unanimously passed the Shovel Our Sidewalks Act. In other words, someone else should come in and shovel my sidewalks. Sponsored by Council Vice President Evan Glass, who we already looked at, that requires the Montgomery County Department of Transportation to clear snow from 40 miles of sidewalks in the county's equity emphasis areas. How does one get into an equity emphasis area? Does that mean I just refuse to shovel my own snow? So someone else has to do it for me? Is that equitable? Equity emphasis areas are small geographical areas with higher levels of transit-dependent communities and communities with significantly lower income residents. Well, how does that make them any different from me? I mean, I work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 24 hours a day some days. But you know what? When it snows and the snow plows come through, guess who goes out and shovels my walks? Me. Not the state, not the county, me. How is this equitable? This equitable or equity thing is nothing more than a misnomer in well, I don't even know how to describe it. False ideology that rewards the lazy. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Not only do I shovel my own walks, but I shovel my in-laws' walks because they're having heart problems. So I go to their house, which is a quarter of a mile away from mine, and I shovel them and their neighbors who are elderly. I shovel all of them out. I come back to my house and I shovel me out. And I have a bad back. I've had surgery on my back. But I do it because it's my responsibility. All this equitableness does is do away with personal responsibility and turn it over to the almighty state. That's where we're at. And that's what this kind of idiot, and that's all I can describe, what's his name again? Mr. Evan Glass as an idiot, using the word equitable to make it seem like it's fair, when in reality it's not. Because, hey, it doesn't influence me. No, in fact, my tax dollars will go to support this kind of tomfoolery. You know, it just boggles my mind day in, day out when I see this kind of thing. And, you know, you look at his Twitter feed and the people are just rejoicing over it. And they're just like, oh, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. Why? You know why? Because it relieves them from the personal responsibility of taking care for themselves and their own families and gives it over to the state or the county and lets them bear the burden. Well, guess who's bearing the burden? The taxpayer is bearing the burden because they're going to have to hire people to come in and shovel this stuff out. When in reality, it's just a natural effect of having your public streets plowed by the state. I don't know. You know, I'm a simple guy. I live in the mountains. I shovel my own walks, even after the plows come through. I shovel friends and families' walks, even after the plows come through, to keep them clear. Because I recognize that there is a physical dynamic at play here. The main street needs to be plowed by the state or the county or the city, and they do that. But everything after that is on us as citizens because we bear a personal responsibility to take care of that. Your tax dollars are now going to be stripped away from you and taken and put into the hands of people who have to come through to these equitable areas, not your area, not my area, but only certain areas that will benefit from your hard work in order to get their cars unplowed or unblocked or their driveways unblocked or their sidewalks unblocked because they're too lazy to do it themselves. Welcome to Maryland, socialist democratic state, where these kinds of people hold power and use that power to enforce an unfair, what they call equitableness, on us. And that's what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen. They're taking responsibility away from the people and bringing it to the state or the city or the county. And that creates weakness in you and me. Plain and simple. That's all it comes down to. I mean, I don't even want to go into it any further because it's that ridiculous. But yet here it is. This is some like epiphany. The state has no power to declare what is equitable. The city, the county, has no power to declare what is equitable. That's on you and me. But yet here we are. Oh, and it's a great thing. It was passed unanimously, as you can see there on the screen right here. Passed unanimously by the city council, by the county council, sorry. And so they're going to go into these equity emphasis areas that they have arbitrarily declared, and they're going to shovel their sidewalks for them. Whereas you and I are going to have to shovel our own. How's that fair? How's that equitable? It's not. That's what it comes down to. It's not. You're responsible for your household and those associated with you, and I'm responsible for my household and those associated with me. It's not the state's problem. It's not the county's problem. It's not the city's problem. It's your problem and my problem. Hey, but let this keep happening. You'll just keep paying more taxes. Pretty soon, there won't be enough taxpayers left to support this kind of idiocy. Have a great day, Maryland. Enjoy your equitableness.